Let's go on and call the December 12th meeting of the White County Board of Education, our work session to order. I appreciate everyone being here as we're halfway point almost, school's year, so I see some smiling faces back there in the back, Ms. Hicks, and so I trust things are going well here at Cassville. Thank you for having us tonight. So what we're going to do, board members, as always do, is we're going to go over our items in the consent agenda and just talk through those. If there's any questions, we'll try to get those addressed. And consent agenda items, as a reminder, will be items that we don't feel there would be any further debate or questions on, or maybe dissenting vote. So if there is, you have the privilege to pull those out. We'd add them into our new business items, and we could take care of those in our regular meeting under normal order. So we'll start out tonight, and the packet, electronic packet that Mr. Drumbarger sent out to us had included our meeting from our work session from last month. Pause and see if there's any questions, comments on the meeting minutes that were presented. One thing I would ask Ms. Sims is, if we could, let's change the heading on that from committee meeting minutes to work session meeting minutes.
Oh, okay.
So that would be more reflective of what this meeting is. Any questions about our
No change in anything there. It's just a wording. It's all still open to the public, still under open meetings, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, but it's not a committee meeting. This is a work session. As we presently do not have have not created specific committees to address any district business. Okay, no comments on that, then we'll move on to the minutes for our regular board meeting for November. Give you a chance to review that, see if there needs to be any clarification, corrections made on that. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Next couple items in your packet referred to a Tennessee Code annotated state statute that addresses the cost of doing background checks for applicants. And in your packet, you can see that law says that any reasonable costs incurred by Tennessee Bureau of Investigation for conducting the investigation of an applicant shall be paid by the applicant the first time the applicant applies for the position with a local board of education or child care program. At the bottom of section C, it says a local board of education or child care program may pay for an investigation of the applicant regardless of whether the applicant accepts an offer of employment with the board of education or child care program. The reason bringing that to your attention is, or it's being brought to our attention tonight, is if you look at our policies 5106 and also 5118, our policy says the board shall, which that means that we don't have discretion of whether we reimburse those funds or not. So the recommendation would be that in compliance with to align with the state statute, that we change that word shall to may, and that gives us the option there to, doesn't lock us in of having to bear that expense, gives us some discretion there in that case.
So the only thing we would be changing is line 12 from shall to may.
Yes, sir. That would be in both policies.
In both policies, okay.
Correct. Now, I do want to bring to your attention on policy 5118, that there is, there's some additional language in that policy that we just have recommendations coming from TSBA. So I'm going to suggest that since that is showing up as an item of new business and consenting to this policy change in consent, we should probably address that second matter of this policy and do that in regular order rather than just passing it in consent.
I agree.
So when we get into the approval of the agenda, I'd ask that someone make the motion to pull 5118 out, add it to new business item 10E, and so that way we can address that.
I don't care to do that.
Okay, so Mr. McDonald, Ms. Sackett, please make sure that Mr. McDonald remembers that, okay?
Don't let me forget.
And make sure I don't just blow past it, okay?
Yes,
So
sir.
if we do that, I feel like we've got that covered. So we'll speak about that. Anything you like to add to that on those policies about that wordage?
No, sir.
Change.
That's perfect.
Okay, then that is as far as the policies that we have, that's been brought up in our work session, those are the only two policies that will be coming up for that you were advised of as far as being amended. In new business, there is policy 4603, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. There'll be three policies that we'll be looking at tonight, and we'll as we move on through our packet, we'll address what 4603 consists of. I will say that this is something that I failed to make clear to Mr. Drombarger. I asked us, in our last meeting, we discussed of pausing on our policy review and going back and looking at policies that was identified as saying, hey, have a question, want to look at this. And the intent was, and I wanted to make sure we had time to go over that, and you had time to ask your questions, get your clarifications. I wanted to pull that out of the work session and add that to an agenda item so we could have the time that we need to go over that and get your questions answered. So I'm going to ask that also we add that our review, our discussion of questions for sections 1, section 2, add that to new business as item F. And so then we can review those, and hopefully I think I've got everybody's, I sent you the list, or the ones that I had identified that it appeared you had questions on. So we'll just go through order and discuss those. Some of those questions we may be able to clarify those in discussion tonight to your satisfaction. But if not, if you think that it would go to, hey, we need to reword something or reconsider something as far as the policy goes, then I'll put that in our work session for next month, and we'll then have some discussion then. So to try to address that. So everybody comfortable with that? Seem like that's comfortable with that approach? Okay. All right, so next item on consent would be budget amendment, excuse me. All right, so I've got budget reports in my files. Let me go here. Let's drop down on the consent agenda. Let's go down to the budget report. That's item F. That's the next thing that's showing up in the files. So we have up-to-date financials for fiscal year 2025, and that would have run through November. And I have some notes on that I could share, or Mr. Markham, since you're here, I'd give you the opportunity to share those notes as well.
Sure.
Sorry to catch you off guard.
No, it's good. It's good. So the financial reports you have there is through the end of November of current fiscal year, so that's 5 months in to our fiscal year period. Revenues, specifically the local taxes, continue to show strength, we think, and are up about $100,000 over the same period last year. And so those local taxes would include your local property tax and your local option sales tax, among some other various sources. Expenditures are tracking pretty regularly where we would expect, specifically with salaries and benefits. You can see that as a percentage. We're right on track as compared to last year as far as that goes. The all other expenses category at the very bottom is a bit higher than last year, but this is primarily due to the COPS grant that we've been working on. We had some of that last year, not at this point in the budget cycle last year, but we do have it because it was later in the year last year. So it's not reflected in last year's numbers, but it is reflected in the first part of this year's numbers as we've been working on getting some of that stuff taken care of. But overall, we're ahead of last year as far as the deficiency of revenues over expenditures by about $150,000. Meaning if we keep on this track, we should be in good shape as far as things stand now. If you recall, our expenditures and our revenues don't line up, so they don't come in at the same time and go out at the same time. So it's kind of just, you have to kind of watch it and see how it tracks according to last year. And according to last year and previous years, we seem to be in good shape.
Okay, thank you. Good to see that the revenue's flowing in at the time we need it most, right? Any questions for Mr. Markham on our budget, or excuse me, our financial report? Okay, then let's continue to go through our packet. You have included in there a school report and have monthly threat assessment reports, and you can see that only a few items that were reported in for the month of November. It seems as all those were closed and with no findings of threats, so that's good. Appreciate those that are going through to research those out, and appreciate that reporting. Then we have the personnel report. That would be item number I in your packet, speaking to applications for November's interviews and hires. Fairly consistent for this time of year?
Yes, like I said, things are a little more fluid now with staff than they have been pre-COVID, but and we are seeing some more teacher transitions more than we had in years past, but we have been able to fill those and are still fully staffed.
I guess I do have one question on that front. Are we at a point, I know our workforce is getting younger all the time. Where do you think we're at as far as teachers getting ready to retire, the 30-year mark? How many do we have at that mark that could go if they wanted to?
I don't know. That's a number that I think we would have to pull. Jennifer could do that. Mr. Rixby could do that. I will tell you, it's not an easy answer. We have several that could go, but we also have an economy that has kept several around. And then also, but what we have noticed is that when they're ready to go, they go. They don't necessarily wait till the end of the school year, and as we had seen in the past. So we've had to talk some folks into maybe staying till the end of the school year if in the best interest of students, and several have been willing to do that. But
I think that's a great idea that they stay till the end of the school year. I mean, I wouldn't want to leave any business or any entity in a pinch.
Yeah, they're certainly welcome to do what's best for themselves and their family, but we appreciate them for the sake of students sticking out when they can. But we certainly notice differences, but I'd have to do some calculations to get some hard numbers.
Just a question I had. Just me being nosy.
Not nosy at all. It's a good question.
Trying to stay informed.
Absolutely.
All right, any other questions regarding our personnel? All right, so we have two field trip requests that were included in our agenda. That's the TSA field trip request for the high school, and then a couple of field trip requests for project graduation. And the TSA state conference, that's going to be in April. So have a 3-day trip, it looks like there, for TSA.
Technology Student Association.
Okay. I'm familiar with that.
So what exactly do we
That's
do?
like the STEM class, and
Okay.
dealing with technology in those areas. Mhm.
That Ms.
It's
McCullough
McCullough's,
teaches,
right?
right?
Angela
Okay. All right.
McCullough's class.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's what I thought.
Gotcha. All right, and then project graduation has, they've requested two. One is the actual graduation night, and they are, I didn't see exactly, they're going to Cookville.
That's to the Burnett Recreation Center at Tennessee
Okay.
Tech. They spend the night there in the rec center, and the other is their annual trip to Dollywood as a senior class.
Okay.
Now, they've
Yeah,
done
very
the,
nice.
they've done the tech thing the last 2 or 3 years, I
They
know
have.
of, right? So, seems to work out pretty well for them.
Burn off a lot of energy.
Absolutely.
All right, so any questions on those,
Crazy enough to take them to.
those
yeah.
field trips? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to say thank you very much for using the Burnett Center. Much appreciated.
You're welcome, Mr. Smith. Glad we could,
Pad your pocket.
glad we could utilize your facility. Appreciate it being there. I know that the costs will go a long way to help covering the mortgage on that. Wait a second, you probably, never mind.
Yeah.
He'll have a chance to recuse himself from that matter.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then that leads us to the next item is the White County Vaping Action Plan. And I hope you had a chance to look over that and see the what's being put together for dealing with some of the offenses. I appreciate the fact that, you know, there are tiered offenses, and you know, anybody can make a mistake one time. When you start multiple times, it starts becoming a pattern. But I'll give you the opportunity if you want to speak to that plan. And
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have the information in front of you tonight, and Ms. Marcy Kennard, our coordinated school health supervisor, will be here during the meeting to go over specifics about that, if you have any questions about that. She's not here right now, I don't think. But she'll be glad to go over any specifics you have about that. But what I will say is that vaping is probably the biggest problem we have, with one of the biggest discipline problems we have at White County High School. It just continues to be an issue, students bringing these products into our schools. We deal with them quite a bit. We've had good cooperation from the local judge and in his office to try and stop this problem. And so we're trying to work now through this through some classes and working with parents to try and just stop these things from coming into our school in the first place. So this is similar to what other districts are using, a tiered approach, and we appreciate as I said, the judge's office working with us to try and provide some education for parents and for students, and try and get this problem not just out of our high school, but out of our community.
so Ms. Sackett, from a student's perspective, how do you think students are? How do you think they respond things like this? Do you think it's,
I think that a lot of the problems, like the students who deal with vaping and stuff like that, I think a lot of it can be just because they're uneducated about what they're actually putting into their bodies, and sometimes it just starts with having a friend that is doing something and encouraging them to do it, and then they start without knowing the harm that they're doing to their body and become addicted. So I think that it would be really beneficial for them to have classes that are going to educate them on what they're actually doing to their body, and I think it's good to have like a punishment that's more than just go sit in ISS all day and get out of class, because I think that for most of them that's what they want, is to not actually be in class. So I think that this plan looks really good and would help a lot of students.
yeah, that's a great perspective, just for those that may not see the plan. I'm sure you can reach out and get this information if you're interested. But you know, there is a as you said, a training element to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
An education element of this with some intervention. 4-hour class on Saturdays. Nobody likes to give up their Saturdays, but then also including that parent and guardian, those influencers that could support, because a lot of times when people have vices like that, the support element to help them overcome that is very important.
So I got a question. You may want me to wait on Ms. Kennard, but so, what if they're not able to have a parent or guardian there?
They can be petitioned if they can't
By the
attend.
courts.
Yes,
Okay.
and then there's
That's
fines
what I wanted
involved.
to know,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm. You know, and that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to put some intermediary steps there that can involve the parents in some education before we have to go straight to court and institute fines. So.
Okay, but we can petition them, thank you.
Is this like gonna be a packet that you give out at the beginning of the school year with this information?
Yes, there'll be education involved as far as distributing information, and Ms. Kennard's office will take care of that.
Great question. All right, so as I look through our folder, the other items that are contained in the folder are new business items, notice of federal interest, and you'd have to speak to that.
I'll be glad to speak to any of those. Some of these just came up, the last just came up today. So if the board wants to entertain, I'll be glad to go over those now and then decide if the board can decide if they want to entertain any of these this evening or not.
Yeah, if you could maybe just summarize.
Sure.
For us, because these did come on new, and so then that way we can determine whether or not we want to address it tonight or if we need to maybe put that off.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Markham, if you don't care, would you want to speak to the notice of interest, federal interest? That's particularly one that we didn't expect, and but it's certainly of importance to the board as it pertains to Bondycroft.
Yeah, so because we spent federal tax dollars on the project at Bondycroft, we used the ESSER 3 funds on that. That was through the American Rescue Plan. The federal government is requiring essentially a lien on that property for a proportionate share of its value of what we put into it, and that would diminish over time. So if they do that, this is general practice for any kind of grant that you get for a construction project, specifically over $1 million. In this case, if the thought process being, if we decided tonight that you wanted to sell that after we put the federal grant money into that, then the federal government would get their share of the money back. The idea being that they don't want to put money into something that we then turn around and sell and they lose their money on. So that's all that this is. It spells out clearly how much money that we received in ESSER funds, how much was used on this project. It also clearly defines the property as being the Bondycroft property. And then it just says that we have to use it for educational purposes, and that we can't use the property inconsistent with the grant. We can't mortgage or use it as collateral without written permission of the Department of Education, and we can't sell it or transfer it without the written permission of the United States Department of Education. And we're just requesting, this has to be filed in the Register of Deeds office, and we're requesting permission for the board chair to sign that tonight.
Okay, so, if you didn't give the board chair permission to sign it, then they would probably be coming and asking for their money back.
Yeah.
So, they're asking
They're gonna
from.
take that out of the board chairs.
They're gonna
Okay,
take
well,
you.
you know,
We're gonna take you.
okay, well, then, agenda item for next month, you'd be looking for a new board chair, okay? And, I hope you write me letters, but anyway, okay.
I'll write you a letter.
Any questions, Mr. Markham, on that? Did we know this going in? Is this, if we ever had this,
We've not ever received federal money through the State Department of Education, from the U.S. Department of Education for construction projects, so this isn't something we've dealt with in this regard before. I've dealt with it before on a USDA project, where we used federal money for the farmer's market in town. That was back in 2011 or something, and that was the last time that we've done that. They required a notice of federal interest to be filed on that, so. As far as knowing going in, I don't recall that ever being brought up, and the State Department of Education's not been extremely helpful on developing this notice of federal interest, but
Say this under your breath, they're not helpful on a lot of things.
we've.
Well, it's also the issue, as Mr. Markham said, that once you got over $1 million, and it's never been, in my
Yeah, we-
recollection, that the school system has ever spent $1 million of the federal government's money on a building project, so this was a first.
Yeah, it's all new for everybody.
so, just reading through this.
I mean, it's really like we really don't have a choice but to sign this.
Is there a scale for the
Yeah,
diminishing returns on that? I mean, how it breaks down over time?
Yeah, so we note how much the square footage is, at the current time, so it's 51,425 square feet with the
Current
the
building?
current
Mhm.
construction. And that is, I think there's some language in the federal regulations about how that they calculate that diminishing return. So, yeah, I mean, it would be 30 years from now, you'd still owe $6 million or something. So,
Be like a depreciation schedule?
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So it'd be a federal depreciation schedule that over 15 or 20 years, that lien would come off. So the ask board members is approval for the chairman to sign that, I guess on behalf of the Board of Education. So that's one new business item. Let's go
Mr.
over.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Quick question or clarification. Under, it's the section where the three letters A, B, and C talked about can't use the property for purposes inconsistent with the program. What would an inconsistent purpose be? I'm thinking of if Bondi Croft wanted to, if their support organization wanted to hold a yard sale in the parking lot.
I don't think,
Would-
yeah, Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
I don't think anything associated with the school or the school's activities or extracurriculars would have any problem whatsoever with this agreement. I think just saying that if we turned it into a horse barn or something, or just try
Bed and breakfast.
Yeah, it's a bed and it's a good
Gotcha.
example, yeah. Anything that would be outside the normal scope of what a school might be used for.
And those 3
Gotcha.
points
Thank you.
those 3 points show up in all notice of federal interest, regardless of if it's educational use or not, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, explanation on that?
One last thing, I'm sorry, Mr. Markham, do you want to make a notation about the surveying information?
Yes,
Since-
thank you. So we have to put in the legal description for the property, and we've got we've got everything except for that included, and we'll insert that as Exhibit A. So Exhibit A is currently blank, but as soon as I get that from the surveyor, it just copies and pastes right into that. It won't change any of the language of the agreement or.
And you already have the big surveying in here, right? Is that
The
what-
note.
The note?
Yeah, it's in there, and then
Okay.
once we get that from the surveyor, we'll put it in, and
Okay.
we should be in good shape.
So, board members, that's a new business item. We're not trying to decide on that in this session. Do we have clarity enough that understand the reason? So, okay, leaving that new business. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Markham. Then we'll move on to the next item. There was 2 budget amendments. One pertains to, I'm sorry, one budget amendment that was presented as new business applies to the SPED program. You just want to give us an update on that?
Yes, quickly, this came to me yesterday. This is just transferring $15,000 in the SPED program to cover transportation for students to special events and to cover some speech services. So it's going from special ed equipment and testing over to bus driver trips and speech services. So just transferring from one line item to another through Subfund 901.
Okay, so that would be a budget amendment that just came, so if it had come before the posted agenda, that would have been in consent. Any questions as far as whether that's something we want to take up tonight? Or are we okay with leaving that in our new business? Okay. And then the next item is we have to approve a school budget calendar, and that's for fiscal year 2026. So that means the budget that we'll be working on next spring. This is going to be in preparation of that. An annual calendar just outlines the dates that have to be that are set, where budgets and things like that would have to be completed by. That's in as a new business item. Then we also have any issues with whether that's some matter we want to take up tonight or not? Since how that starts in January, it might be prudent to us to go on and address that now, approve that now. The next one is, that was brought, was the approval of the band trip and fundraising requests. So this would be for the band to attend the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando, Florida next December, so it'd be December 2025. We have the application, we have the cost, but I did not see the what they were going to be doing as far as fundraising for this.
So, Mr. Mills, as the band, our band is fantastic, as you know, and they try and take a big trip. This would be one of their big trips about every 3 to 4 years, so that every student that's in the band gets to take one of those big trips. So this would be the next one, not right now, it'd be the following Christmas. What they're asking for tonight is permission to register to go to this and be the band of honor at this particular bowl, and then they would be coming back later with their actual fundraising wishes at that point. So they want to get permission to actually apply to take advantage of this opportunity, and then if they're accepted, they'll come back and spell out exactly what they're going to do as far as fundraising goes.
So this was something that was just presented to us tonight. Is there a deadline for them getting their application in?
There is, and that's why they've brought this for you. I don't know what that is, but obviously they're a year out, and these things usually book pretty close to that. So that's why they're bringing it now, is to get permission to apply to be to register to be the band of honor at this particular bowl, and then they'll come back at a later date very soon with some fundraising requests.
Okay, then so maybe some matter of time sensitivity on that. Are we okay with that being in our new business?
Absolutely.
Yeah, do you
They're
think they
talking.
might let us go with them?
I'd say Roger
Very
Mills would
much,
welcome
yes.
anybody to go with him.
Go as a chaperone.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Then we'll move on to the next one, and that, there are, as I said, there's two policies that, and this was just sent out today, for TSBA, a promotion and retention policy update, and then background investigations updated. So the promotion and retention is, and I guess it's, the request has to be made, setting a time frame on when that request has to be made?
Yes,
or-
if you don't care, I'll speak to these,
Absolutely, please.
Mr. Chairman. These came out just today. This came from TSBA, and I thought if the board wanted to, they would be a first reading opportunity, so I thought I would get them before you rather than put it off another month. I thought might be a chance to see this, so certainly not trying to rush anything through. But this was something that would come forward again next month for you to look at, study for this month, and come forth at second reading next month. But promotion and retention, that's 4.603. Basically, it says that if K2 students choose to retain their student in the appropriate time of a school year, they have to submit that request in writing. And then if that student is not eligible for that retention, then we have to respond in kind. And so it just spells that out in, as there's been a lot of talk over the past couple of years over retention and promotion in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and then there was some issue in K2. So this is just clarifying that process of that procedure. And then 5.118, again, is dealing with background investigations. It actually, again, deals with the issue of may versus shall in the repayment of those costs for the background checks. And then also it speaks into the language of the time frame it has to take is between when they get results back and when we can refund that money. You can compare that to our existing policy, all those times that are in there, and you can see the highlighted portions that would be affected by the change. So what I would propose, just for the sake of time, so it doesn't drag out and we end up doing a lot more investigations, I would ask the board to approve these on first reading tonight, and then you'll have time to study them, and we'll come back for second reading, and with all of our details filled in next month.
Okay, so just so everybody's clear on what we would be doing on item E, that there were two policies coming up that we're being asked to consider approving on first reading, because there are changes will be forthcoming to our policy. Then we have the next month to be able to study those, bring up any questions, get your questions answered by administrators during that time, and then be prepared to have from second reading in January. So as Mr. Stromberger says, just allow us to be efficient with time. Board members have a problem with that? Comfortable with passing something on first reading, giving us time to work through that? Okay, all right. Then the last one, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to add an item F, if you would, to the agenda, and that would be to review our section 1 and 2 board members' question review. However you want to wordsmith, that'll be fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That's just the first thing that came out. Let me go back to our consent agenda, because there were no budget amendments and transfers that were presented prior to the publishing of our agenda. So in consent, there are no budget amendments or transfers. We did not have a maintenance report. We didn't have school report. We didn't have TLN reports. So of our consent items, there were no reports. Those three reports were not in your packet, and so we'll make reference to that in our approval. Okay. All right. So anything else? All right. Well, we will pause and adjourn our work session, and then reconvene for our regular board meeting at 6. Thank you. White County Board of Education meeting for December 12th, 2024 to order. If you would, please rise, and Miss Elizabeth Isabel Sackett was going to lead our pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone here to our meeting tonight, and Ms. Hicks and staff, appreciate you hosting us at your campus, and always great to get out and see all the good work's being done as we sit here and getting close to the halfway mark of our school year. Appreciate our visitors here tonight, and look forward to some of the presentations that'll be taking place shortly. Just wanted to remind everyone that Tennessee Code Annotated and Board Policy 1400 state that every board meeting of the board is open to the public except where law allows a closed session. The agenda for the board meetings are posted on the district's website at www.whitecoastschools.net at least 3 days prior to each meeting. Each meeting agenda by law includes an item reserved for public comment. The sign-up sheet is made available prior to the beginning of the regular meeting. Individuals who have signed up prior to the start of the meeting to speak will be recognized in the order listed on the sign-up sheet at the point of the agenda designated for public comment. Board meetings are streamed with the help of Warrior Media for live or recorded viewing. Links are provided on the district's website. Attendance and or speaking during tonight's meeting implies consent for comments and appearances to be used. So, again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and your interest in the White County education program. We have a agenda tonight that's had a few changes as business has come in, and so we will address that when we look to approve our agenda for tonight's meeting. But at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any board members that have a conflict of interest, something that might constitute a conflict of interest regarding our agenda tonight. Please let that be known at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every month, I do not have anything on the agenda tonight that is a conflict, but just for public record, I'd just like to state that my wife is an employee of this system, and her influence has nothing on anything that you will hear from me tonight. These are all in the best interest of the students and staff and administration of White County Schools.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Officer.
I do not have a conflict either with this agenda, but my spouse is employed by the district, and my opinions and my decisions are my own.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Officer.
Much like Mr. McDonald and Ms. Officer, I do not have any conflicts relative to my wife working at the White County High School, but any comments I'll make tonight will be mine and mine alone.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. So, Ms. Sims, please let it know, the minutes reflect that Mr. McDonald, Ms. Officer, and Mr. Smith all have spouses working for the district, but nothing on our agenda tonight would constitute a conflict as defined. But we do appreciate your spouses working for the district and them allowing you to serve in this capacity. So next item on our agenda is to approve the agenda for this meeting. And as we discussed in our work session, board members, there have been 6 items added to new business as they came in after the agenda was posted, and those were discussed. But for the record, we'll note that that would be items 10A, notice of federal interest, 10B, budget amendment for Fund 142 and Subfund 901, item 10C, approval of the school budget calendar, 10D, approval of a band trip and fundraising request, item 10E, that's TSBA policy recommendation for 4603 and 5118. And then finally on item 10 is the school board member policy considerations from our review of sections 1 and 2. One other item failed to put on the agenda, and I don't think you would have issue with, but we have school presentation. And Ms. Hicks will be doing that right after we consider our consent agenda. So that is the agenda that is being considered tonight. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Fowler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is consent item, our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consisted of the approval of our minutes from the meetings held on November 14th, 2024, which was the minutes from our work session and the minutes from our regular meeting. There were no budget amendments or transfers during our work session. We had a policy report. There was amendment for first reading to policy 1506 and amendment to policy 5118. We did not have a maintenance report, a school report. We did have a budget report that was discussed. There was no TLN report. We reviewed the monthly threat assessment reports, our personnel reports. There was a field trip request by White County High School for TISA. There was a field trip request by White County High School project graduation. And then there was White County vaping action plan that were all discussed in our work session. Those items being approved by the board on consent unless there is an item that we feel needs to come out for further discussion, which point it would be added to our new business.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, I don't know if it needs to come in the form of a motion or how it needs to do, but policy report, item number 2, amendment to policy 5118. I'd like to pull that and then include that in 10E for the TSBA policy recommendations on 5118.
Okay, if you would make that in motion.
I will make that in a
Okay,
motion.
so a motion to pull out of consent agenda amendment to policy 5118 and consider that in new business item 10E.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so item number C2 in consent agenda, the consent agenda will be pulled and considered in new business. Any other discussion on our consent agenda items? Okay, not then motion will, at this time, we will vote to approve the consent agenda. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we'd like to recognize Ms. Shauna Hicks from Cassville. She has some special presentations and share a few words about the good things going on here at Cassville.
I did, and if it's okay, I'm gonna stand right here and talk because I brought some helpers with me tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to start by welcoming you all here to our campus. It is a very exciting night for us, and we're just happy that you all are here. Before I get started, I do want to give just a couple little shout outs to a few people that I have that helped me make tonight possible. Miss Tracy Ramsey, and they're not here tonight, but I still want to give them a shout out. Miss Tracy Ramsey, Miss Ashley Floyd, and Miss Kelly Holman. I kind of tell them some ideas, they take their ideas, they mix it together, and they are really the ones that put all the work behind it. And so I'm grateful because I know I probably could not do this without their help. And I'll be honest, I can vividly remember sitting in the July principals meeting when Mr. Drumbarger said that our topic for the school board was going to be school health heroes. And I thought to myself, who in the world am I going to honor? And if I told you that I have not thought about it over and over and over since July, I would be lying. But I have, and I thought, who can I possibly bring in to make this a special event? Because my first year here, we got to honor people, and then last year we didn't, and so we kind of flipped back. And so I've just been eagerly thinking, who can I bring? And so we have decided that we are going to put a little spin on things, and we have brought a few helpers in to help present our honorees for tonight. So at this time, could I please have Mr. Noel Grantham, Mr. Cooper Paul, and Ms. Bonnie Webster come up. So I'll be honest, one of the easiest groups of people that I automatically thought about honoring is our wonderful ladies in the cafeteria. So can I please have Miss Sonia Poston, Miss Tammy Young, and Miss Shana Stewart come up, please? I don't know what goes on in the cafeteria at other schools, but I know what goes on here, and I think we're pretty blessed with some of the best. These ladies right here, I just want to say thank you to, because every day they are giving our kids a smile from them and a kind word every day.
You guys can be seated.
Hang on, got them all. Won't take a picture. Never mind.
Thank you, ladies. And next, my mind went to, we have a High Hustle every fall, and under the leadership of Miss Dana Smith, she organizes our fundraiser for us, and basically what that consists of is students try to raise money, and then at school, they see who can run the most laps in a 30-minute time frame. And so with that in mind, I've got two kiddos that I do want to recognize, and it's our leader and our second place winner for that fundraiser. And so the leader of our school comes from 5th grade, Mr. Rylan Lefevre. And Rylan ran 26 laps in 30 minutes, which equates to about 2.6 miles.
Oh, you want to do a picture with
And
this?
I got one more.
Okay, well,
And we're gonna go from the oldest group of kids in the building to almost the youngest group of kids in the building, and we're gonna recognize Mr. Kason Lehman. Kason is our kindergarten student, and he made it 22 laps, which is about 2.2 miles in 30 minutes.
Make it case.
And next, we're gonna kind of switch gears a little bit and start recognizing some of the adults in our building. And I just want to say that if you ever come into this school between 8 and 3, you are most likely going to hear our walkies buzzing all day. And it's going to be monitoring sugar readings. It might be transporting students from one end of the building to the other. And so I, along with Noah and Bonnie and Cooper, have a few people that are especially important to those three. And so up first, we're going to start with Miss Kelly Copeland and Miss Sandra Gentry. If you ever see these two ladies out in the building, one of them most likely will have Noah, and the other one is most likely checking on Cooper. Their love for their students is shown deep by just how much they give care for them, and so we are very thankful for both of them. And next, Miss Bonnie and I would like to recognize Miss Amanda Stockton. It wasn't long ago that I sat in a meeting beside Miss Stockton and I said, can you think of anything that you all might need for your classroom? And her response was, just some gummies for Bonnie. Putting others first is one of her greatest qualities, and we are lucky to have her here at Castle. And last, but certainly not least, is an individual that I personally know that I couldn't survive without. And she probably will not speak to me for a few days for making her come tonight. But could we please have Miss Nurse Paige Shelton? She goes above and beyond her expected duties all day, every day. And regardless of the fact that students love her for her Smarties and her peppermint, there are 214 students and even a few teachers that love to visit the office because they know she will greet them with a warm gesture and a smile. Very true.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. We appreciate that. That was well done, and really appreciate you recognizing a broad range of people that help make Cassville healthy. Awesome. Appreciate all your helpers coming, and parents. If you're more than welcome to stick around for the rest of our meeting, and we'll be happy to have you. Obviously, if you have other things, commitments you need to go to, then that's fine, and you can feel free to excuse yourself at this time. All right, so we'll again appreciate Miss Hicks bringing
Got low sugar.
making that
There we go.
presentation tonight. We'll next move down to our next item on the agenda, and that's the district update. And so recognize Mr. Trombarger.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have just a short update for you from the district, but certainly willing to discuss any questions you have. Personnel reports in your folders for the month, fully staffed at this time. Always looking for more bus drivers and other great people to support the work that we're doing here. We do have a couple of folks retiring at the midway point this year, but we think we have those replaced, and we're looking forward to a strong second half. Academically, there is a lot to celebrate in White County schools when we're allowed to tell you. But what we can tell you right now is that our growth scores look really, really good from last year. The testing from last year, the data continues to come in, and it looks really, really promising. We're really excited. All of our schools are, with the new letter grade system, all of our schools are A's and B's. We're super excited about that. We have 4 reward schools, which means they're in the top 5% of the state in growth. All that information is kind of embargoed right now. It's being released in the very near future. It'll come out, and we have plans to celebrate that more and more. But you can be very proud of the academic work that's going on in White County schools. Safety-wise, the lock projects continue at several of our schools and CERT meetings as well. One thing I want to point out, I think that one of the best things we've done safety-wise in the past few years has been the Parent Square communication app. That has been a real godsend. We have had so much success in communicating with parents. We've had 2 significant security issues this year at White County Middle School. They turned out to not be so serious, but at the time they were taken very seriously. But the communication with our parents has been so good, and it's been we've had so much rapport on that feedback from parents about how good it was. Parents know what's going on in real time. They feel confident that we're handling situations, and it's just helping so many different ways. But certainly in safety and security, we're proud of what Parent Square has allowed us to do to communicate with our community. Financially, just today, before this meeting, White County Schools received almost $350,000 in what's called outcome funding through TISA. This is a result of student performance on TCAP testing, specifically with our English language learners, economically disadvantaged, and special ed students. Basically, if they perform really well in certain subgroups, we get extra bonus money for that. So we got almost $350,000 just today, so that's exciting. Athletics, White County High School football team went to the third round of the playoffs and were beaten by the eventual state champion. But this was the best season our football team has ever had in school history. Very excited about that and proud of our team and coaches and everybody involved in that program. We had our first home wrestling match in school history this week. That's exciting. Basketball is in full swing, and spring sports are actually starting conditioning already. So lots going on there. Building projects, we talked earlier about the Bondycroft project. Officially, we have signed, I think, the final check for that. Mr. Markham, I think, can verify that. So it's paid off, of course, but then we have a lien with the federal government, as we discussed earlier. But we have no plans of getting rid of that building. We're really proud of it, and it's going well. School's going well in that new space. Christmas break's coming up December 18th, a week from yesterday, will be the final day. That's that abbreviated 9:30 day. And then schools will be closed from December 19th through January 6th for Christmas break. We hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And that completes my director's report, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. D. Any questions for our director regarding the school report? And I think should be noted, since you brought it up, we did beat the eventual state champion.
We did, early in the season, we
early in
did.
the season.
We
So,
sure did,
just for the record.
Yeah.
Very proud. Happy for our friends in Macon County, but certainly proud of our Warriors and the effort they put forth this year.
Very exciting, very exciting. Okay. Well, if nothing else, then it leads us to our next item on our agenda, and that is our student representative report. So Ms. Isabella Sackett will be giving that.
Thank you.
Sackett?
The Interact Club collected their donations for their angel tree this week, which is exciting, and we love to see students helping others. Our Move to Stand Club actually just finished their first visits to the elementary schools in White County. These went, I think, a lot better than last year. I think we've all developed our skills personally so we can pour into them. We had lots of fun activities, some bonding moments, heartfelt discussions, and some life lessons for us and who we were there to educate. As Move to Stand, we plan to be the impact and also teach students how they can be the impact themselves. And students at White County High School go above and beyond each and every day, and teachers are given the opportunity to nominate students each month that they feel apply themselves in class, show respect to our staff, uplift their classmates, and above all, are exemplifying what it looks like to be a White County Warrior. The students that are given the honor of being this month's monthly Warriors are Kelly Combs, Victoria Davis, John Hocko, Chase Lewis, Kaylee Morris, myself, Jean Taylor, and Ashling Wright. I rehearsed those so many times. I've been practicing my pronunciation for that. White County High School FFA also participated in what they like to call their favorite week of the year. November 18th through the 22nd is a week that students all over the nation travel to their elementary schools to help the younger generation understand the value of agriculture in their lives and make informed decisions about their future. Representatives from White County FFA's chapter says that it means a great deal to be able to teach the younger generation about agriculture, even if it's just through reading a book, as well as saying that being able to give back to my community by using my knowledge and skills that I've developed through our FFA program means a great deal to me. Growing up, I did not have a deep understanding of the agriculture industry, and being able to do something for someone else that I wish I would have had the opportunity to have is very important to them.
Great.
And that's
Thank
our
you.
report.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a statement?
Yes, Mr. McDonald.
I talked to Ms. Sackett in between our meeting, and I asked her how old she was. Of course, I know you're not supposed to ask the woman how old she is, but she's a kid. She's 17 years old. She may be the most well-spoken 17-year-old I've ever been around, and that's a testament to her education that she's getting in the public schools, not only through FFA and through those things. So thank you for being a leader at the high school and doing all the things that you do.
Thank you.
I know a 55-year-old, I think she's more well-spoken than him.
I wasn't gonna say that. I was not gonna say that.
Any other comments? Mr. D?
On the heels, Ms. Sackett is working, and Ms. McGill, the board had asked them to do some work on the cell phone issue at the high school, and we are working on that. She's been working with Ms. Barnes, and they're putting together the surveys. As you'll recall, though, we can't just survey folks anymore. We have to send that out ahead of time, get permissions and things like that. So because of the timeline, we'll probably have to put that off until probably the February meeting is when we'll bring you results, because we're about to get out of school, and then we come back and the next meeting is January 9th. So we're just gonna let you know that work is underway. We will get the results, but it will probably be the February board meeting before we have the results to you.
Appreciate you bringing that up. The request for, well, first of all, Ms. Sackett and Ms. McGill, they are very eager and willing to serve and how they can contribute to the board. And so they challenged me on what can we do. And so since it was something coming on the heels with some discussions that we had at TSBA, and we were, the conversation about cell phones in class, the idea for me came, it's like, well, why don't we just ask the students and maybe even some teachers, what's your thoughts on that? And so came up, gave them the idea, potentially a survey, and they're taking to run with it. It's not something that anything pressing, but thought it'd be a great exercise for them to get information for us as a board, just to get a pulse. So I appreciate them being willing to do that. Mr. Stromberger, Ms. Barnes for helping out with that, and look forward to seeing what kind of responses we get and what kind of feedback. It's always good to know. Any other comments, questions regarding our student report? All right. Then next we'll move to public comment. As stated earlier, policy 1404 states that we have an item on the agenda to give time for public comment, and no one has signed up for our to speak at our meeting tonight, so that moves us on to new business. And again, we have 6 items of new business that we need to cover. The first item is notice of federal interest, and it was brought to our attention by Mr. Markham that because we have accepted federal funds for a building construction project, then the federal government they request to have a lien on the property. That would be, for lack of a better term, amortized out over a period of years, where the amount of the lien would be reduced over a period of time. But what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to protect their investment into the facility to ensure that it's used for the purposes that we stated. Normal course of business, even though that is probably new for us because we've never used funds from the federal government for a building project, and the county on rare occasion has done one with another department of the federal government. But this is first, and so what the request is in this notice of federal interest will be the board approving me as chairman to sign that notice of federal interest. It was included in your packet. It needs to have an update of the survey description of the property, but from a board standpoint, we will just be approving the fact that the chairman will be signing for the chairman, giving the chairman authority to sign that document. So with that, I would entertain a motion to allow for the chairman to sign the federal notice of interest.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDonald. To have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is we do have a budget amendment. That's Fund 142, Subfund 901, and this is to move funds in the SPED program And Mr. Stromberger, if you could just clarify the description as far as what those funds are being moved for.
Yes, these are special education funds that'll be moved from one category in that fund to another. For one line item, they came from special education equipment, evaluation and testing in the amount of $15,000, and it's being moved into contracts, private agencies, other wages, and transportation equipment to cover the cost for bus drivers to transport SPED students to special events and to budget for additional costs for speech services for our special education students. So just moving these funds from one line item within this fund to another.
So money stays within the program, it's just being appropriated for the specific needs that were identified. So any questions for Mr. Stromberger on that? Okay. This time I'd entertain a motion for approval of budget amendments for Fund 142, Sub-Fund 109.
We'll make the motion.
A motion by Ms. Officer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our new business is our school budget calendar. We were presented with a fiscal year 2026 budget calendar, and so this would be setting dates for that where certain objectives need to be met leading up to the budget that we will be working on later in the spring, presenting to the county for their approval in June for funding to begin in July of 2025. So budget calendar was presented. We as a board need to approve that calendar and on our behalf, and then also be conscious of the dates that are there, because we will be on the as it applies to us on May 29th, the school board has a special called meeting for budget adoption. So we will be doing our work prior to that date, and that date will be a special called meeting where we will consider just the budget and passing that so we can send that on to the county's budget committee for their approval just a few days later.
One question there, and I know I've done this several years, but so the date that we have to have everything approved, we have to have it done on our end, sent to the county, is by May 29th.
That's when we will meet. We will have to have it to the county by June 2nd, is my understanding.
So the 29th, we will do work before the 29th. The 29th is just the adoption night.
That's
where
correct.
we come in, approve the budget after we've had deliberations
That's
a
correct.
couple nights before.
That's correct. So just as a reminder, especially some new board members, the administration, Mr. Stromberger, Ms. Alley will, and Mr. Markham, they will be working on the budget. Members welcome to participate in that and be a part of that if you choose. But they will be working on a proposed budget, and we will have a meeting. We'll set a date to have that presented to us, give us the opportunity to ask questions, give us time to then go and consider that, and then we will come back on the 29th to have our special call meeting to approve the budget that we will be sending on to the county. So I haven't looked at the calendar on the 29th. I'm going to assume that's a Thursday. Typically what we would do, we would meet on a Tuesday. And we would go, that would be a work session that we would go through to have us ask questions and get clarification on items. We'll have, the budget will be provided to us prior to that work session, and then we will give us a chance to review that, and then our actual approval will be on the 29th. So
That's generally about a 3.5 hour meeting on.
The work session.
Yeah.
The work session does take some time, and will also be. Also at that time we have the nutrition, school nutrition budget, will be, and that's a different budget, different monies, federal monies. So that will also be presented to us. So we'll have all that coming together that we consider during that time. So would ask you just to consider, if at all possible, consider travel plans around those states, so that way, because I know that gets into vacation season, but it is very helpful to have all members present as we go through that exercise.
When's graduation?
That would be 16th.
16th, right? That's what.
Yes, that's what I was informed. It's May 16th.
Friday night?
That's what I've been informed.
Wow. Okay.
So, any other question regarding the budget calendar? All right, this time I entertain a motion for approval of the school budget calendar for fiscal year 2026.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Any other further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one note. First of all, two things. Thank you to Mr. Markham for getting that out to the board in front of them tonight. And thank you to the school board, and maybe Ms. Fowler, I think, was actually the one that caught that was due before January 1. And so this is a direct result of the board's due diligence in working through their policy review and finding that date. And so we got that on there. So thank you to the board for catching that. And thank you, Mr. Markham, for providing it this evening.
So, yes, Ms. Fowler, thank you very much for noting that. All right, any other comments, discussion? Mr. Smith, did you have anything?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. All right. With nothing else, then all those in favor of approving the budget calendar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on new business is the approval of band trip and fundraising request. So we were given a information regarding the White County High School band wanting to make a trip to the Pop Tarts Bowl game in Orlando, Florida, December 2025. So it would be a year from now. And they have an application deadline that they're trying to meet, but this would be where they would go and be part of the bowl game festivities, activities for the band. It's a 5-day program and a 5-day event. And as it's been shared, Mr. Mills tries to coordinate a rather large trip for the band at various times, so that each class would get to participate in one of these trips that would be above and beyond maybe some of the normal trips that they do. There is a cost to it, and for each participant. They have a package. The package is them being part of the halftime show finale, a parade performance. They'll have some tickets to the games, some Universal and other attractions that they will get to enjoy. Hotel accommodations. They do have some meals. There is some coverage for accidents and medical insurance for the travelers. They're claiming they can receive some high school credit for that. I'm not 100% sure what that consists of, but there's round-trip charter bus transportation. So it's been presented. It's a amount of $1,334 per person, and for them to make this trip. Now, they're asking for our approval for us to approve them to go to this trip, and that would probably be contingent on the fact of them being able to raise the funds for that. On the agenda item, it says fundraising request. Didn't see a fundraising request attached to this, so that would be forthcoming, correct?
Correct.
So we would, what's being asked, that we approve them to register for the event, participate in the event, and then and contingent upon their being able to secure funding for that, and then they would then petition us later for their fundraising activity to cover this cost. So that's what we're being asked to consider tonight. So I'll pause here and give board members opportunity to ask questions, provide comments.
Knowing Roger Mills, our band, and knowing how he runs that program, top notch, top to bottom. And he wouldn't be presenting this to us if he didn't feel like he could get his band there and get the money raised in full. So I'd be in full support of us approving them to be able to at least apply to go to be the headline band, or the highlight band at this bowl game. So I'm in full favor of it.
I agree.
And I would make a motion that we approve it.
Okay. So have a motion by Mr. McDonald to approve the band trip contingent fundraising. They're being able to fund the trip. Do you have a second, Ms. Fowler?
A second.
Okay, Ms. Fowler has a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So next item we get into is, in new business, is TSBA policy recommendations. We'll start with 4603. Actually, I guess we could consider both of these in the same motion. I would accept a motion to that would consider both of these, approving these for first reading. So in 4603, it's just to provide clarification language regarding our policy on promotion and retention. TSBA has provided us with a recommended policy that has to do with clarifying the process in which students and parents and guardians on behalf of the students could submit for retention. And there's some timeline there that needs to be inserted in policy, and so that's what's being recommended. And then the next item, as we go back in policy 5118, I want to go back to that for just a minute because I think it's important for clarity. On policy 5818, one of those lines in that policy states that the board shall reimburse the applicant in the position an offer is accepted. I'm sorry, this is regarding background checks and who shall pay for that. As I think I said earlier, state law says that the applicant is the one that would pay for the application, and the board or the education entity, they could reimburse them for that. Our policy says shall, so that means that anytime an applicant goes through a background check, our policy says we will pay them back, but it's the language that's being recommended is we change that to may. That lines with state statute. Then the next item on that TSBA has brought to our attention, as we get here, is talks about the retention of records. So when we do background checks, there are, we are receiving a record on that individual, and they have asked that we clarify the manner in which those records be retained. I think, is there anything else I'm missing on that policy recommendation?
No, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So what we'll be doing on 5118, in addition to changing the word shall regarding the reimbursement and that to a may, then we will also need to put language in our policy that states how we deal with the record retention. So if you look in your packet, as you flip through, there is a 4603 is included that shows you our policy and where the insertions will be made. And I'm expecting that the administration will come back to us with language, and we will see that before our next meeting.
Yes.
So we'll have time to look at that before we come in and actually would take action on that. Then, and the same for 5118 regarding the retention of records. So what we would be doing in this action would be, we would be passing both policies, the modifications, amendments to both policies, revisions to both policies, excuse me, on first reading, with the understanding of what those policies will be, what we will be changing them to, where some of the detail of how those will be actually be executed will be provided to us before we would consider for second reading. Doing it this way would just be allow us to get the policies approved in more expedient manner. So this time I would entertain a motion for approval of the TSBA policy recommendations, along with our recommendation to align with state statute on reimbursement for background checks for policies 4603 and 5118 on first reading.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Ms. Officer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, so the next item, board members, is, as we get into our new business, is policy considerations from sections 1 and sections 2. And I appreciate your work in this area as we go through and try to review our policies. Obviously, it was beneficial. Ms. Fowler was able to pick up on something that business we were able to take care of tonight. So it's helpful to have eyes looking at those particular policies. So what I did is I went through, and we have our worksheet that we're working off of, to where with assignments for you as board members to review policy, and then make a recommendation if discussion you feel is needed regarding a particular policy. And so we had a few tonight, and my thought process behind this is that unless it's a matter of expedience where we need to address something, bring up the policy. Maybe we can get your question answered tonight, or get our questions answered tonight, just in discussion. Or it may be something that, say, we need further discussion on this to the point where we may consider wanting to revise the policy. And then the objective would be that we would put that in a work session for more discussion if we felt like that policies need to be revised. So does everybody have an understanding about what I'm wanting to try to accomplish here? Well, different approach to review. So the first one that I had noted was a policy 1201, and that was Mr. McDonald, and it was duties of officers. So, Mr. McDonald, would you like to speak to that policy? Maybe
What brought really my attention to it is, and I don't know that this would ever be this has ever happened in the past, but it talks about down in the bottom of that policy, a chair pro tem should be elected or shall be elected to preside during a meeting when neither the chair nor the vice chair is present. We currently do not do that. I think that's something we might want to either get some clarity from TSBA if that needs to even be in there, or we need to get on board and actually do that. I don't know that there's ever been a time in my 10 or 11 years on this board that the chair and the vice chair have neither one been present.
So that's a great point, because when you read the policy, it says the chair pro tem shall be elected, means that is something we do.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, we do. And when looking at policy right there, I'm not seeing any legal references to statute on that. do you, are you see, is anyone else seeing
I
that?
didn't see anything. There was no notation. And then when I looked through it and read, some of those Tennessee, TCA codes, there was nothing referencing the chair pro tem, so.
Okay.
I mean, I
So,
think it's just something that would allow us to continue business, if the chair and the vice chair were both, out of pocket.
okay. That, and, which could happen.
I mean, it's not
Any other-
happened in 10 years, so.
Well, and maybe it's just the, the wording shall, just like what we talked about on the reimbursements.
I mean,
If
could
the
we
word
change that
shall-
to may? Should-
It very well could.
That would, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if you changed it to May, could that be a decision made within the 3 days that we normally have to get an agenda out? Could that be essentially on the fly decision if that situation ever came up? Again, if we changed it from shall to may?
Well,
think
that's a good question. I don't,
I think
So-
that's gonna be a legal question for maybe somebody at TSBA.
so are you volunteering to?
I will.
Okay,
I will.
so Mr. McDonald's gonna follow up since that was his question, for get clarity, but I think, that's a good point. If we say shall, then it's supposed to happen when we have our regular elections. If it says may, then I guess the question would be, well, when would that may happen? Would it happen before a meeting that was known where the chair and vice chair would be absent? And could you do it the meeting before, or could you do it at the beginning of a board meeting and have an election?
I will.
So,
I'll
Mr.
take
McDonald's
care of
gonna find that out. Okay, so I'm gonna just make a note here that that's assigned to Mr. McDonald. Okay,
I actually had some in those. Do you just want to do the next
So-
meeting since?
okay.
And I'll just go back and add it. Do you want me to do that?
No, let's go down the list. If you have one, I don't want to exclude you.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't mind. It's
Okay,
okay.
which one? So Ms. Fowler has one on,
I think I got about 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 in the one. So
Section one, okay.
1105.
1105.
That's got to do with the legislative involvement.
Okay,
So, number 2 on that, I know Mr. Smith is our liaison now, so, it says, "We shall work with other school boards in the state, other local officials, and community groups in creating public awareness and support." Are we doing that? I mean, I know you go to the meetings.
Well, I think
and-
in the board's opinion, that would be your work through TSBA and their legislative agenda that they provide to you.
So, and then number 4, do we have a an annual legislative program? Is that the one that we're talking about that we go to? Okay,
So there is TSBA provides, legal and legislative in February, as a course or as a conference that you can go to. That
Okay.
covers them during the session so that you actually get to talk to legislators. They bring them in from Capitol Hill to that meeting. So, and then we also follow up with that in July when we go to the
When we go to-
TSBA Summer
Yes.
Law Institute. That's
Nice.
where you're getting that education from.
can any of us go to that one in February?
Absolutely.
Yep,
Okay.
it's February 10th and 11th in Franklin.
Was we supposed to have already signed up for that, I think? I believe we did get an email about that.
They've sent information, but I'll make myself a note to send that to you again.
And, okay, thank you.
great.
Okay.
All right. Do you have anyone as we go, another one as we go down section 1?
Uh,
Before you get to 1205?
Is that, Miss Alley?
I got
Miss-
1204.
Sims
Okay.
registers for that, right?
Miss Alley.
Miss Alley, okay.
All right, so,
'Cause I paid attention to this word shall,
absolutely,
okay?
absolutely.
So, line 3, I believe I've already answered myself on that one, though.
What policy number?
1204.
The annual calendar.
Yes.
School board conferences,
The
conventions, workshop.
workshops, because we get that from the TSBA that we can see, correct?
Correct.
That's our annual calendar we get from them to know when their conferences are and stuff. See, I already answered myself on that one.
And just for clarity, Mr. Drombarger is serving as our board secretary, unless we choose to do something different, but you have by default.
Adjacent. Technically, Miss Linda Alley is the board secretary, and I am board secretary adjacent. So I work
Okay.
with her to make sure, so when she registers you for your conferences and things like that, but I send her that information. Yeah.
Well, line 15, I would like to say, I mean, now we do have the news media here, so they've actually been putting it in there for the public when we actually go to our TSBA conferences.
So
Okay. I got it.
All right. Mr. McDonald, you had one on, if I'm not mistaken, 1205?
You have to give me a minute. Yes, that, the
Director's
evaluation, yeah,
evaluation.
the director's evaluation process. I mean, I said we're following the policy currently, but we're in the process. I think this is a work in progress, with the new evaluation process. I think we had spoken a couple of months ago.
We have, that has been on the, our agenda since last, evaluation. And that's something, that Mr. Stromberger and I had spoke about getting together to do that, over some downtime here in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna try to get there, and what I have in mind for that is a draft of evaluation to go over with him, because there is negotiation between the board and the director of, how we evaluate, and we start improving what we have done in the past. So we get that, then we'll come, and that'll be presented to the board, and you'll have opportunity to look at that and provide comments, go back and make revisions, but get a good quality document for evaluation. So yes, thanks for bringing that up. Anything else on, do you have any more do you have something on 1402?
Yeah, I better look at my phone over here. Because now I'm having to go back and remember. So the public notice of all of our meetings, I know it's posted on the website at the central office. Is it posted at each school? It said shall.
It's through their website.
Okay, so that can be, because it said, and on the, so it said, in the central office, each school, and on the school system's website. So we're okay as long as it's,
It's through each school's website. It's
Okay.
being electronically shared.
okay. Hey, I took that shall word to heart.
I
now, I'm
appreciate
telling
that,
you.
Miss. I appreciate that, Miss Fowler. I appreciate that's
Don't tell
what
me to pay attention.
that's what it's about.
And then, I think this last one,
What policy you
no, it's 1406. It's good. It's all good.
on? Okay,
Yeah.
so no questions
Because we
on.
got the news
on
media,
that.
we're good, yeah.
All right, so Mr. Smith, do you have anything? All right, so all right, so I had one on. This is a very interesting policy number. 180113. Let me slide back to that for.
That was the first one.
It's old formatting for one.
Yes, that was, yes, that is correct. On this particular policy, it does not align with our formats, what we currently have in place. It does not show issue date, revision date, or anything that, date approved. So we need to get that formatting changed on that particular policy. Not that anything needs to change with the policy, just the formatting. And if somebody could provide some guidance on that numbering.
That we can, and the reason that probably came out strangely, that had to do with emergency designations it was during COVID. And so that was rushed out into who was considered essential personnel, who had to work, and trying to classify those two. So that's why that probably came out in a strange format. And then we moved on from COVID and just didn't go back and address that. But we'll fix the formatting on that for sure.
Okay.
And pray that we don't have another one of those episodes.
Okay. All right, so anything else in section 1 that stands out? And I know some of you new board members, didn't have the opportunity to review that. Then let's go on to the section 2. The first one was 2200, and that was Ms. Fowler.
Oh, sorry, we actually took care of that tonight. That was our,
The
budget calendar.
budget calendar.
Yes, sir.
Great. So we've got that checked off. Then you also mentioned one on 2404.
Yes, sir. The school support organizations.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big lengthy one.
So, Ms. Fowler, if you want me to explain. So, Ms. Fowler, on this particular policy on school support organizations, if you read the policy, the introduction says, no group or organization may use the name, mascot, or logo of a school or the school district to solicit or raise money, materials, property, security services, or other things of value. Then it says, so that's the introduction. The question Ms. Fowler raised, which I think is it's, it does merit discussion. It says no group or organization. Well, what does that mean about the, say, a booster club? Maybe the
Quarterback club.
quarterback club, any organization that would be with, the basketball teams. The FFA is a national organization that we have affiliate in our school. They probably don't use many of the logos and materials of the school to solicit or raise money. But the question was, does that language need to be cleaned up?
Mr. Chairman, if you go down to line 7, it discusses whether the director or the director's designee shall annually post a list of organizations that are recognized. So could you simply add verbiage to say no unrecognized group or organization may use the name, so on and so forth?
I think that would be a legitimate question to ask somebody to review, like TSBA.
I think the only, I think the only concern I would have that in the introduction, lines 2 and 3, that is based on TCA reference there. So, you're addressing a code.
Yep.
So
Good point.
you want to make sure you're not adding anything there. But I'll be glad to address it from a SSO standpoint, address that with the board attorney, or with TSBA attorneys. They could answer that. We're already paying them. So we could get them to answer that question for us, and with the idea that we want to make sure that our SSOs are not inappropriately using any of those logos and things.
I think it's, yeah, it's just clarity on the language, you know?
That's what I think it is, yeah.
I'll be glad to ask that from TSBA and get a response from them.
Okay. Then, moving down, the next one I see here is 2802, payroll procedures. Mr. McDonald, I think you brought up an interesting point on that because you mentioned something about with direct deposit.
Yeah, I think this policy is gonna need a major overhaul since, you know, we moved from being, check-based to where they were getting a check every month to, direct deposit. I think the policy would probably need to be looked at as a whole from the top down. Gonna need several lines of discussion from us, I would think, on how that needs to be, addressed. 'Cause
So
we have so many, how many different, Mr. Markham, you may be able to answer this. How many different pay cycles do we have? I know teachers are paid at the end of the month. So the support staff gets paid bi-monthly, which is the 15th and the 30th, correct? And then the teachers and all other staff are paid on the 30th.
And then school nutrition is every other week.
Okay, so. But everybody is required to do direct deposit now, correct?
Yeah, I was going to say, some of this may be semantics too, because where we say checks, that they're actually getting a paycheck, they're getting a payment. So it may not be, they're not getting a hard copy of a check, so it may be something we want to look at that to say they are receiving compensation at
Yeah.
that point, but they're not receiving a physical paper check.
Yeah, I just knew that stuck out to me, because I knew that we had went to the direct deposit like most businesses are doing now, so.
I'll be glad to review that with Mr. Markham and Miss Alley and see if there's anything that needs to be changed there as far as paper checks versus direct deposits, and then make sure we're not adjusting anything within a TCA code.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Again, the whole purpose of this, and appreciate you bringing that up, we just want to make sure the language is right in the policy. That way it shows we're doing our job. Then, going on down the list, see if there's any more. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. So that covers the list. All right. So we've got a couple of homework, action items that we'll do, and again, we just want to make sure if there's any clerical or clarity we need to provide, we can do that, and do that before we move on to the next sections, so that way we can clean it up and then move on. So, all right. Any other comments on our policy? All right, so we'll move on to our next item of business. That's our old business, or no old business items on their agenda. So then that would leave me down to the chairman's comments. So our next board meeting will be January 9th, 2024 at Dole Elementary. Our work session will begin at 5 o'clock. Our board meeting will begin at 6. This coming Saturday, during the Christmas parade, we will, the Bobmobile,
Yeah, we can call it that.
Books on
the
board.
books on board, the mobile bookmobile that we have, is going to be in the parade. And Jackson Kayak, we owe them a big thank you for, they are providing 850 books that the employees will be walking alongside the bookmobile and handing out during the course of the parade. And so, board members, that's good use of our asset, and really thankful for the partnership with Jackson Kayak for them to be able to provide us with the books and actually hand those out during the parade route. So thanks to them. And board members, if you're interested in being a part of that, please let me know. That parade is at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and I'm sure we will find some way for you to be able to participate if you're interested.
Will the elf on the shelf be there?
So with that, that's all the comments from the chairman. So at this time, I would entertain a
So
motion
moved.
for adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDonald, and second by Ms. Fowler. All those in favor? All right. Thank you very